Welcome to People. I'm Shirley Lin. Today I have a very special guest here in the studio with me. His name is Andy Kincart, and he's the sourcing director of Eco-Cha, selling Taiwan tea. And he's been in Taiwan about almost 20 years. He's originally from New York, and then because of his dad's work, then he moved to California, and that's where he got interested in Asian culture. And then he wanted to study Chinese, so he came to Taiwan. Well, I'm going to let Andy take from there. Okay. So glad to have you here, Andy.
Thank you for
so
having
much.
Me.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Actually, he traveled all the way from Taichung on the high-speed rail to get here for this interview. And he brought his whole tea set here. I am so
The travel
moved.
version.
The travel version, right. So you're originally from New York, and then you moved to California, and then you got interested in Asian culture there. Now, you actually even took up Tai Chi, and anything else that's really Chinese while you were
Chinese
there?
language. My last year in university, I started studying Chinese.
Right.
Just a kind of overall interest in the culture and the philosophy and religions of Asia, and particularly China.
Yeah. What is it about Chinese things that really got you? What do you think?
Good question.
Yeah,
I don't
what was
know.
the very first thing? It wasn't tea, was it?
No, tea came later after I arrived in Taiwan.
Right.
I think it was just, a wholly different perspective, a kind of a more holistic approach to life, the way it was, at least the way it was represented in California culture. Tai Chi was a meditative exercise, and martial arts. It was all just very intriguing to me, and in retrospect, I don't know what made me so captivated by Chinese culture.
Well,
it's
there
kind
is
of
a huge Chinese community in California.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, Asian, actually, but yeah. So learning the language wasn't hard for you think?
Oh, I wouldn't say it's a past tense thing. It's definitely still a work in project.
Well, you're working on your thesis. You're not writing the thesis in Chinese.
No, that's an English program. Okay. Yeah, it's an international program.
Cute. Well, good for you.
Yeah, I'm not even close to being literate, although I do fairly well on that day-to-day conversational level.
Yeah, I think you're very, what's the word? A very, I don't know what's the word, because I know that you're also into philosophy and sociology and psychology. I don't know, something about people who are into these kind of things, because I know I interviewed somebody just recently, Father Jerry Martinson. He was into philosophy and philosophy and psychology too. Something about people like you, I guess. But
yeah, that's my roots, and I think that's probably the kind of foundation that led me in the direction of Asian, being interested in Asian culture.
Right.
And I think, that has, that's part of my background and is still a presence in my life, although I feel like I've just kind of simplified things and enjoy things on a more day-to-day human level, and tea culture is a really good example of that,
Right.
I just feel like in Taiwan culture, it's so natural, and it's something that people do as a way of life, but not in a particularly ceremonious way, I would call it like a social ritual.
Okay.
Something that you can just do to sit down and enjoy the company of your friends,
You're getting very philosophical here. Yeah, you said that, everything about Taiwan is very natural. I don't think I've ever heard that before. But anyway, you could have chosen China or Taiwan to learn Chinese, but you were going to go to China, but then you met up with the Tiananmen incident, and so you stayed away. And
I was here in Taiwan when that happened. I arrived in March of 1989, and of course that was June of 1989, and I had ideas like that I wanted to go to Beijing, probably just because of my preconceptions of China in general, not having gone there. And I not that they changed drastically. I think it was more just a natural progression of being here and liking it here, and realizing that Chinese culture is very alive and well right here in Taiwan. And so I never left, really, or I didn't proceed to go live in China.
Wow. thank you for not leaving Taiwan.
Oh, my
I should
pleasure.
say thank you for loving Taiwan. You know, wow, that is amazing.
Thank
now
you,
you're
Taiwan.
actually also into music.
Yeah, that's a hobby of mine. It's always been a particular presence in my life.
Right. So while we're at this interview, Andy's going to start brewing the tea now. And that's why I'm dressed very cultured here today. I'm going to get more cultured in the next 30 minutes. But, well, before we get to your tea, though, what musical instrument do you play?
I play guitar.
Guitar,
Yeah,
okay.
and sing.
Yeah. And actually, I have interviewed before, years ago, on the phone though, and it was talking about tea back then, and I had no idea you were into music then though. But and then I interviewed somebody else, Nick Fothergill,
Right.
And he's a musician back then, and then I had no idea that the two of you actually knew each other, and you're both into music, and now you're both into tea. Well, the music's still ongoing, right?
Right.
Do you play together?
We have on occasion for just community events and stuff. We've collaborated a little bit. Yeah.
All right. Now, music is your hobby, and then but tea is really your thing now, and it amazes me. It amazes us Taiwanese people that someone from a foreign country, to be so into tea and Taiwan tea for that matter. Now, I know that back then, when I interviewed you many years ago, you had a tea online business, so to speak. You were selling tea online only, and it was called Black Dragon. And I would never have thought that the name actually came from oolong tea, because ool means black,
correct,
and long means dragon. So you said, well, why not Black Dragon?
That's
so that was a very nice name.
Right.
Now, called Eco-Cha.
Right.
It's like one sip of tea.
Correct.
In Chinese. I like this name.
Nice.
Too. I like this one too. It's amazing. This is really great. Now, some people have heard about Eco-Cha. So you said you officially just started in July last year.
Correct.
I'm amazed how you're really getting around. People have heard of Eco-Cha.
Yeah, maybe we had some momentum. I mean, this is the fruition of my an interest of 20 years now, and so I think it's more just that we established a company and in an organized fashion are starting to promote the culture that I've been involved in. So I can thank Nick in that respect for helping to create a platform for me to share this passion that I have.
Well, what did he do?
What do you mean?
What did he do to help you?
Oh, just to set up the whole business, I
was just wondering if he had magic or something.
No, well, it takes more than one person to create a company, I think. And,
sure.
And, yeah, I think it's quite a good balance of responsibilities that has been created. So, yeah, I wouldn't have been able to do it by myself. Black Dragon Teas existed for 15 years. And,
by yourself?
Right. But that was a hobby that I enjoyed, but I don't know how many people have heard of that.
Okay, I got it. But that's great. I think that you and Nick, the music connection kind of help you probably. I don't know. It's something about...
Yeah, I mean, that's how we met. And,
yeah,
that's a great platform of communication and to get to know someone,
So do you combine the music with the tea? Are you guys going to try that?
We haven't yet.
Eventually, maybe.
Yeah, who knows what's happened.
But you're going to have to play Chinese music.
I had an American folk band several years ago that got to perform at the Lugu Farmers Association tea competition fair once. That's probably the closest thing. Or having said that, I personally was able to provide musical accompaniment to the very first Senghua Ca Hui. It's the Living Art of Tea Club that came out of the Farmers Association in Lugu also. So their first event in 1995, I played guitar and accompanied. I was the musical accompaniment to that tea party.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What kind of music did you play? I'm so curious.
Just a instrumental acoustic guitar and a few American folk type songs.
Okay, folk.
In his inimitable way, my friend Tony, who organized it, he just said, "Oh, can you bring your guitar?" He didn't actually, asked me to, he didn't say, can you prepare a performance for us, you know? So it was a bit of an impromptu thing, which was fine in that context. It was really natural and just really friendly people. And in retrospect, I just feel grateful to have been a part of the establishment of one of my favorite tea parties that I've been to. They put on annual events. I think it's just once a year now. They were doing biannual. But it's a reservation-only formal tea party where you are part of a, I think it's maybe 100 people at a sitting.
Okay.
And they have, now it's professional musicians, and/or they've had like theater type performances to accompaniment, dance, modern dance.
This is indoor or outdoor?
Indoor.
Okay.
They were going to attempt an outdoor one last fall.
Yeah.
But I think the logistics of it, the weather, actually the typhoon season never stopped last year. If you might remember, it just continued into the fall.
Oh, yeah.
And they were afraid it would just be,
I know.
turn into
That'll
a disaster.
Be awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had it indoor. And they do a great job in terms of decoration and making it natural, but, a really nice aesthetic, I think, that club has created.
Wow. You were mentioning about Tony, and I think we should talk about this because when you decided you want to go into tea, you were looking around for people, and so that's how you got to know Tony Lin and his family, the tea farmer family.
An American friend of mine, Cheryl Robbins, who has continued to live in Taiwan, I just happened to mention in a conversation that I want to go visit tea farms. I want to go direct to the source and see where this good stuff comes from and get closer to the roots of the culture that I had become involved in. And this was 1993. I think I had just returned from the States. And she said, I have a good friend in a place called Lugu. And he works for the Farmers Association. He speaks a little bit of English. And at that time, my Chinese wasn't very good. I mean, it was okay, but anyway. So there was a kind of meeting halfway. Tony had spent some time in the States through the 4-H program, which is kind of an international agricultural exchange organization. Long story short, I made a phone call or two and went up there with, then actually, the first time I visited was with my Chinese teacher from Donghai Daxue, the university in Taichung where I was studying Chinese. And we rode up there on the day that they were making winter tea. At that time, they were still processing tea in their home from Tony's family farm. And there I just walked into a tea, a small home established tea factory, and that made an indelible impression on me, and I've never stopped going back,
Wow.
So
and now Tony is like one of your best friends.
Yeah, they've welcomed me into their home and basically taught me everything I know about tea and have become great friends in the process. Yeah.
Does he speak English?
Tony does. He's quite fluent.
Oh, well, that's good for you.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And his wife, Lisa, who will speak English if I make her, but I can speak English to her and she'll speak Chinese back to me.
Now, when we taste Taiwan tea, are we supposed to make noise? What's a polite thing to do?
If you want to be a tea judge, if you're really, really assessing the qualities of tea, I don't think it's necessary to do that in order to appreciate tea.
People.
Right.
This is nice.
If you are analyzing tea, there is a method to tasting tea where you inhale in order to spread the tea over all of your taste buds and back into your salivary glands, and that allows you to get all aspects of the flavor and composition of the tea.
What do you mean by inhale? Like just like not drinking
slurp,
at the same
basically.
time? Oh,
Yeah.
slurping.
Yeah, I'll show you.
Yeah.
But it's like I say, it can be. I feel like in a social context, it's definitely not required, and that allows the tea to kind of disperse over. I guess it's been kind of a consensus that the flavor and the quality of the tea hits all parts of our
Really?
Taste buds and allows us to assess it more immediately.
I don't know. I just can't.
Yeah, you don't need to. It's not necessarily a socially
I know.
beneficial thing.
I feel so ashamed. Like I hardly know anything about tea. And here, Andy, it's like even the way you're making tea and I don't know. It's just I feel so ashamed. That's all I can say.
There's nothing to be ashamed about. This could be a great opportunity. Maybe it'll start a new interest in your life.
Oh, yeah.
It does provide aesthetic fulfillment, you know?
Maybe.
I'm not proselytizing. I'm just, presenting that possibility.
I'm sorry. I don't even know where Lugu is.
Oh, that's in southern Nantou County.
Okay.
Yeah, about 20 minutes outside of Nantou City. Yeah.
Okay.
In the foothills of the mountains that lead to some famous tourist destinations, Shito and Shanlinxi, are further up the road from Lugu. It's a kind of a dead-end street, so to speak, in that the road that leads to Shanlinxi doesn't connect to any other road. So those are beautiful forest mountain parks, really worth going to visit. Both Shito and Shanlinxi are a great destination if you're looking for a weekend mountain getaway. When it gets really hot in the city or in the lowlands, if you take off and spend a night there, it's quite a treat. Yeah. And Lugu is about 20 minutes just on the way, 20 minutes before you start to hit those mountain park recreational areas. Yeah.
So are you sportive too?
So you mean I guess you could call me an outdoorsy
cycling.
person. More lower than that, hiking, camping. Yeah,
that's good enough for me. Yeah.
I have hiked Yishan once, and that's enough, I think.
Well, Yishan's a tough one.
Yeah.
Probably the toughest one in Taiwan.
I don't know. I haven't done that many other ones, but I think there are probably more difficult hikes.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth it. It's really beautiful, especially from the Dongpu side, which is the longer hike. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you bringing the whole tea set here, even though this is just for looks, I guess.
This is a receptacle after you finish brewing tea, or often people will rinse the tea before you drink. This is an organic tea. I'll introduce it. It's a one-of-a-kind tea. It comes from the Alishan area. And it's the result of a tea farm being cut off from access. The road was blocked from the Typhoon Morakot in 2008. So for almost a year, this road was closed, and the tea farmer could not access his tea garden, and it kind of went wild to an extent. And this was the tea that was first picked after that period of time when the farm could not be managed. And but the kind of blessing in disguise of the result of that is this tea that was produced is, I think, one of the nicest flavor of what is called yenate, in probably pronouncing it not
Taiwanese?
Correctly in Taiwanese,
yeah, I know.
which translates loosely as bug-bitten tea. It's where Oriental Beauty comes from, a traditional type of oolong that's grown in Hsinchu County mostly. And
you're showing everyone how much of a tea connoisseur you are. See, I don't even know about these bug-bitten tea.
Yeah, the latest incarnation of that is concubine tea, or guifei cha, which is kind of a meeting of it's allowing the leaves to be bitten by this tiny, small, a very minuscule kind of grasshopper called a leafhopper, and that's how Dongfang Meiren came to be. And there's a long history of that tea being grown in Taiwan, a famous tea that the story has it that the Queen of England gave it that name, Oriental Beauty.
Oh.
So the farmers in central Taiwan have imitated that, in that they allow their leaves they leave their plants unsprayed in that particular growing season, so that this bug can do its magic and bite the leaves as they're growing and give it a really unique flavor. And
you have a blog, and you've got some pictures of tea leaves. Is that do you have that? Do you have a couple of pictures of that bug?
Yeah. There's a blog about this type of tea. You saw that,
because I thought I saw it. I have sharp eyes. I think I saw that. So those are the little green bug on the leaf, right?
Right, they're cute little guys. I mean,
Okay.
it's not like it's not a scary thing, and it's only like, you know, when the leaves are first budding, they just bite the leaf to probably extract some of the sap or the juice in the leaf when the leaf is tender.
Right.
And that stunts the growth of the leaf, so that the yield of the tea harvest is diminished to about 25% of what it would be if it were grown conventionally. But the flavor that comes out it's just a very unique and interesting event that happens, where the most common description of it is a honey flavor or honey fragrance, mi xiang. I find it to be, this one seems more fruity, like peaches or something to me. But it's nothing, it's like a whole different flavor of tea than the conventionally grown tea.
Really?
Yes.
I'm so bad at like figuring out, oh, this tastes like honey, this
Right,
tastes like peach, or this tastes like, I don't know, sandalwood. Or
Yeah.
I'm bad at this.
It's
even
all
with wine
conjecture and it's
tasting.
all subjective, obviously. You know, people act professional, but I think it's all what you know, your own experience, and if you're into it, then you have more to say about it, I suppose.
Right.
You know.
So yeah, because you're really into tea. Now you said something earlier about when you went to find Tony that he was making winter tea. Are you saying there's such a thing as summer tea and winter tea and spring and autumn tea?
That's right. Yeah.
As in when they're harvested?
Correct. Right. Yeah.
I had no
So
idea.
tea is, I mean, it's essentially just a tree, and it's trimmed so that it remains a bush rather than a large tree. But if grown naturally, they grow quite tall. And it's a perennial, you know, it'll continue producing leaves year-round if the climate allows for that. If it doesn't get too cold in the winter, and the plant will go dormant, as in other places like Japan and China. And actually in the highest elevation places in Taiwan, Lishan and Taiyuling, they only get 2 harvests a year, typically, maybe 3. But as opposed to 4 and sometimes 5 and even 6 in the low elevation areas of Taiwan. Yeah. Most of the tea I purchase is, well, virtually all the tea that I purchase is harvested 4 times a year, perhaps 3. And in accordance with the seasonal names that you have, spring, summer, winter, and fall. So that just happened to be the time that I visited them, and it was, you know, serendipity or coincidence or whatever, that the time, I didn't wait for that time to go visit them. I just called them up and they said, sure, you can come this weekend, we're making tea. So that was a nice opportunity.
Okay, so you actually sell your tea to anyone who's interested, even ship them to people, tea lovers abroad.
Right. It just takes...
This is quite a big business. I mean, I think the packaging part is very important. You know, you don't want the quality of the tea to be, you know, altered during the shipping and all that. I'm just amazed how you even start this business. I mean, you have to be a really, really, you know, big tea lover to really get into this and make this into a business. So what, yeah.
I have my Taiwan friends to thank for that. You know, they've been great role models, and they've really worked it out in Taiwan. You mentioned packaging. As I understand it, Taiwan has invented the vacuum-sealed packaging of tea. Along with the rolling, tightly rolled leaves. Okay. So it's a combination of the processing of the leaves, and typically in central Taiwan or high mountain teas, as opposed to more traditional teas and red tea, where the leaf is just curled slightly and then packaged. Taiwan has developed a way of tightly rolling the leaf so that it'll preserve the freshness and also prevent it from crumbling. It protects the leaf, the integrity of the leaf. Right. It's a smaller packaging. It's tightly packaged. It's easier to ship in that respect. It's actually, it sounds funny, but when you're talking about big quantities, it really does make a difference in terms of the size of the package or shipping. But vacuum-sealed mylar, or a type of aluminum-based bag where you're able to seal, to lock out all the oxygen, which is what exposure to air and moisture is what will change the quality or the freshness of tea. So they've solved that problem, you know, pretty much completely. If it's vacuum sealed, even if it's a fresh green tea, as opposed to roasted teas, which will have a much more stable shelf life. You can keep it for 2 years, and they say that it doesn't change the freshness.
Wow, that's great.
So yeah, it's been a very useful invention, and that happened sometime in the 80s, I believe. Yeah.
Wow. What do you like to have with your tea in terms of like little snacks or whatever? Or you just prefer, you think the best thing is actually just drink tea itself and not really have it with anything?
I think snacks are good.
Yeah? What snacks do you like to go with tea?
I think the most appropriate would be a more, nothing overpowering. Nothing too sweet, nothing too spicy, something that will kind of mask or alter the flavor of the tea. So nuts, like almonds, peanuts, maybe unsalted even, but I don't think, just nothing too sweet or nothing too spicy. And I find that I prefer to not have fresh fruit, just because fruit is such a dynamic flavor. It's either astringent or sweet or sour, and sometimes it can really complement tea. Like Asian pears, I think, are a good complement to tea. But citrus or something may or may not work. So it depends on the type of tea and the person, I suppose. But yeah, mild flavor crackers or cookies that aren't too sweet, something like that.
Oh, okay.
And more natural, less processed, I think, is kind of complements the overall aesthetic of tea, as it is an unprocessed type of thing to enjoy.
Well, now that you've been in Taiwan for almost 20 years, what is it? What part of Taiwan that impresses you, or what is it that you like about Taiwan besides tea? Let's talk about, your impression of Taiwan, your thoughts and feelings about Taiwan.
I suppose in a word, it's the people.
Just knew you were going to say that.
It's true, I mean, there are great places. Environmentally, the mountains in Taiwan are unique, and I love the mountains here. And I've hiked a lot of mountains around the world, and these are some of my favorite. The dramatic scenery here is gorgeous. But on a day-to-day level, the overall friendliness and openness and helpfulness and willingness to help as a foreigner here, and I think almost all my foreign friends will agree with me that Taiwan is really unique as a society. The people are extra friendly and go out of their way to help foreigners, And there's a cultural identity that might be a part of that, but I think it's more than that. I think the society in the last 20, 30 years, especially as it's developed here and the economy has kind of come to fruition, so to speak, and everything about the contemporary culture and society is unique, and I think it's what's continued to bring me back to Taiwan and finally make me arrive at the conclusion that this is where I want to live, for an undetermined amount of time.
Great. Where do you want to go with Eco-Cha?
Well, I just want to keep doing what I'm doing, which is sharing my love for this culture and to the best of my capacity, I want to support the farmers that I think are doing a good thing and practicing sustainable agricultural methods by default, in the sense that they're working on a small scale, a privately run industry, and not developing it into some sort of extremely large corporate agricultural project that exists in Taiwan. But I think there's a lot of privately owned farms and privately run and managed and cared for farms, and tea is a specialized product in that sense, that people really take pride. There's more to do with tea than if you were to grow fruit or vegetables, I think, in the sense that it has a lot of skill in the processing, and perhaps I'm sure there's a science to every agricultural industry, but tea, it's a specialty product, and I think especially the current generation has embodied that pride and actually consciously, maybe I know a lot of young farmers, 30, 40 years old, that have gone you know, gone off to the city and maybe become a professional in another field and done that thing, and then come back to their farm and inherited and, you know, taken on their heritage with renewed interest. You know, it's kind of a renaissance in that respect. And that's definitely a deeper level of intrigue and appreciation that I have for the industry here. And I hope to be able to represent that to the international community.
Wow. Yeah. What's the farthest you've sold tea, country-wise?
We've sent tea to Australia and Sweden and many European countries and Hawaii and, of course, the mainland North America, Canada, and
this is really
States.
Keeping you busy.
Yeah, this year has been there's been a lot to do, and just, you know, starting up the company and getting it off the ground, and learning a lot about the whole of opening a business in Taiwan as a foreigner. You know, that's been kind of tricky, but
I know.
Like I said, with the helpfulness of the Taiwanese people, it's been rather smooth.
All right. One last question. If you were to leave Taiwan one day, what's that one sound you're going to miss that's typically Taiwan to you?
Yeah, the first thing that I think of is cicadas, the sound of this bug that I've learned about from being here. I didn't know about this bug before I lived in Taiwan.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
They don't have it in California.
They probably do, you know, but it's
but
just it was so pervasive, and in my, especially Donghai University, the campus there, in a particular time in late spring, summer, the sound becomes deafening. You
Definitely.
know, it's just it's one bug will start doing its thing with its wings, and then the whole, you know, for acres or, you know, a square kilometer or whatever it is, it's just buzzing. You know,
they're singing.
Yeah, and
can you make that sound? You can do it.
That's the human version. But it's,
that's good enough.
Quite a bit louder and more buzzy than that.
I know. All right. Well, it's been a joy and a lot of fun just talking to you and also sipping tea with you. Good luck with everything.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
That's a great name. It's going to stick in people's minds. So
I like it too.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Shirley.
Thank you for watching, people. I'm Shirley Lin.